Hey everybody. So first of all, before I start, when I met Alex first, the idea of coming to Toronto was just that. It was an idea. And I'm really happy to say that we announced at the start of this year that we were going to come to Toronto. And under Don Kettle's engineering leadership and Hannah Cabe's product leadership, we've actually established that footprint, and we're going to continue to invest in the Toronto area. So shout out to everybody here tonight. I've already been amazingly inspired by everything I heard. I was actually planning to prepare for my talk, but I was actually so engaged in the content, I decided to say, hey, to hell with it. Whatever comes out of my mouth is going to come out of my mouth. So a little bit about my story before I tell the WW story. About 5 years ago, having been working at a New York City startup for a while, I thought it was time for me to take on a new challenge. And during that journey, I came across WW, or Weight Watchers as we were known at the time, and was asked to consider joining their technology team. Now, from my perspective, WW, I had experienced success on the program. So from a science-based perspective, I was convinced that they were the world-leading weight loss management solution. But from a technology perspective, I was a little cynical. And so I went down to check out the site the night before my first interview. And this is what I got. If you can't see it, this is saying, hey, we're going to be back up in 7 hours because we're doing an upgrade. I don't know why I decided to take that screenshot, but I did at the time. So, what I discovered was that WW did 2 deployments a year and many break fixes deployments after that. When I eventually got in, this is what I was greeted with. This is a Flash-based food tracker. And so that's what our customer experience was at that time, 4 years ago. Now, I want to give a lot of credit to the original engineering and tech team at WW because they established a business in 2001, a technology business, when a lot of dot-com companies were going bust. So, kudos to that team. The problem was that 14 years later, we were still using that platform. And as we all know from tech debt and from, when I think about the customer experience, customer experience and user design was not nearly as prevalent back in 2001 as it is today. So overall, between tech debt and the experience, it was really a difficult platform to innovate on. So it was around that time that I kind of became obsessed with the idea of disrupting from within a major brand. What if we could take the principles that we've learned in the startup world or from Silicon Valley and actually applied them to a legacy brand? So obviously I took the job because it was going to be easy. And but the most, we got straight to work. And so I've got 5 kind of fundamental premises that I believe helped us on this transformation. The first thing is we actually re-platformed the majority of our members' experience. We rewrote the iOS app, the Android app. We rewrote the back end, built a microservice architecture. We moved from Oracle to Cassandra and Mongo because that's easy to take a relational database and go to Mongo and Cassandra. We decided to embrace modern technologies because we felt that those technologies were going to allow us to move faster. And then, as we were doing that, we also looked at our practices. We embraced Agile. Today, we have about 40 Scrum teams working on different problems. We became obsessed with solving our members' needs and really embraced user-centered design. And, really importantly, we wanted to move from 2 releases a year and so we invested heavily in a CI/CD pipeline that would enable our engineers to push code on demand when they wanted to. So, and last year we did several thousand deployments. So as if that wasn't enough to keep us going, we actually started looking at our people. And WW traditionally outsourced a huge amount of work. And we wanted to bring all that back in-house. So over the last few years, we've hired several hundred people across all different functions. And it's been really probably the most enjoyable part of the entire journey. And what we did as well is we actually reorganized our entire structure so that everybody would report into a functional lead that would help them to develop and be their mentor and advocate, whilst on a daily basis working cross-functionally across the organization in Scrum teams. Underpinning this was our culture. And this to me is the really important secret sauce. You know, we have to create, it was imperative for us to create an environment that enabled our teams to innovate. And this is probably the most difficult part of the transformation. It's something that we're still grappling with today. And in many respects, it's easy for the tech and product team to figure this out. But how do you work with brand, and how do you work with science, and how do we include them as part of our journey in our transformation? And it's been a great partnership across the organization to make that happen. And finally, and I think this is something that's often overlooked, WW, as I mentioned, was the world-leading weight loss management solution. But our members wanted more. They wanted to feel good. They wanted more energy. They wanted to be more active. And so we had to shift the narrative from being a weight loss company to being a wellness organization. And today, our mission is to inspire healthy habits for real life, for people, families, communities, for the world. And it's when you bring these 5 things together for us, we have created a platform that allows our teams to innovate at a really inspiring pace. So today, this is our journey. We now have an experience that we can be proud of that is actually helping our members be more successful than ever. My favorite way of rating this is our App Star rating. We have 725,000 reviews. We're at 4.8 stars. The reason I'm proud of that is because when we started, we were at one star. And there's been hundreds and hundreds of people's work to actually get there. It includes operations, it includes our engineers, it includes the designers, the researchers. Everybody's work is reflected in these ratings. And so look, I think to wrap up, my belief is that everybody has not alone the ability, the obligation to innovate. And by focusing on your people, your processes, your technology, your culture, and the overall brand, it's possible for everybody, not just the startups and the Silicon Valley organizations in the world. It's possible, and actually, it's important for everybody to truly innovate. So thank you.
Questions. I have one. It's Alex, right here. How does this compare to Second Market? Any similarities?
It's really funny. I was a VP of engineering at Second Market, and it was the first time that I led people at scale. And the culture that we created at Second Market was the exact same type of culture I wanted to have at WW. And I couldn't always see it, but we've got there through years and years of hard work. And it's funny how similar the environments are now from a cultural perspective.
Hi, Michael. Thank you very much for your talk. My name is Edgar, co-founder and CEO of Fit, which is a mobile streaming platform for in-home fitness classes. We just graduated from the Next 36 program, and we're also pitching at the Elevate conference. So if any of you are going, feel free to check us out. My question for you is, you have been very involved in terms of innovation within an existing brand in the fitness space. And a lot of these things they're kind of fads that kind of go through. So I'm interested to see your opinion on how do you see the space evolving in the future, and where do you see areas for opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's a ridiculously good question. So first off, I'm buying time, you can see. So first off, I think if we look at our success, actually, it's been by avoiding fads. We have been in existence since, the 60s, 56 years, I think. And it's been based on science and community. Those are the 2 pillars of our organization. So, fads will come and go, but I think things that are rooted in science will have far more longer staying power. And I think that what I've experienced, at least, is actually trying to to figure out what is real science and what's pseudoscience, because that can be incredibly complex. And I do think that there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I think, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but I think that the things that will last time are the things that are truly based on science.
Great presentation. Thank you so much for sharing your insight. My question is, when it comes to dealing with legacy systems within a huge corporation, how do you fight the battles to make changes happen, especially when certain resources do not report into your jurisdiction?
Yeah, look, I think that ultimately, some of this is actually telling the truth. It's pretty. It sounds obvious, but for example, we have one system that's replicated 5 times across the globe, and it's basically 5 systems doing the same thing. It doesn't take a lot to understand that to do any innovation on that system means you have to do things 5 times. So therefore, you're wasting money. So I think every independent legacy system has its own story that you can tell, that that you can help to describe why it's important to invest on. And sometimes you just have to start off small and just show by example, by doing things a little differently, that you can actually have an impact. Go one more.
Hey, Michael. It was just wild hearing you chat about your journey with Weight Watchers, because it was almost identical to my journey with an HR company I worked for, McQuaig. They also had a Flash app from 2001 that I had to rebuild with just one other developer. And it was just wild. I didn't realize until I worked there that Flash apps were still a thing in 2015. Also 2015.
Crazy.
So we actually rebuilt it in 3 months and were able to kind of launch a minimal viable product. But I was just wondering, what is your advice for getting a company that were totally fine with the Flash app in 2015 to realize the value of minimizing technical debt, of user experience, of design? It took me 3 years to get them to hire a designer. Like, how do you talk to these folks?
I mean, look, I think from my perspective.
No offense.
Yeah. From my perspective, I was lucky in certain respects. I was able to go through the interview process, and I was able to talk to the management and to members of the board and understand their passion for solving this problem. So I didn't have to do the convincing per se. But what I can tell you is that along the road, it's a bumpy journey. And there's times when people are not necessarily sure that you're doing the right thing. And I think that for me, honesty and transparency has always helped in terms of telling the story. When you have a problem, just being fully up there and out there with it. I would say there is a culture in our organization for different reasons that sometimes with production issues they wouldn't want to share out. Well, that actually inhibits trust. It breaks down trust and inhibits innovation from happening. So I think the reality of it is if you're using a Flash app today, and I mean, my boss has a great saying, your competitor is your last great experience. And I think it's so true. If you're used to getting an Uber to go to work or something, and then you come into this Flash-based system on your own job, I think that if the leaders can't see that, then there's a bit of an issue. But I think that, look, telling the story, talking about the opportunities and what you can do, I think being KPI driven is incredibly important. Talking about your research and using the data that you can show to tell your story more powerfully is incredibly important. And just be honest, I think they're the kind of key things that I see in helping to move that narrative. It's tough.
Thank you.